I have to issue a warning before starting this video. What you are about to see is disturbing, and it is within the Quran and Sahih al-Bukhari. Most people, even Muslims themselves, do not know this. Please, if you have small children in the room or children at all, ask them to leave. As always, the only way to show you guys the truth of any religion or any claim is to use their own books. And today we're going to be using Islam's the Quran and Sahih al-Bukhari. So before we start this video, guys, and I show you proof of what's about to be said, I want to show you a clip of an ex-Muslim woman speaking about this topic. We're going to touch back on it later on in the video, so please pay attention and watch it all the way through. And then I'm going to show you a couple clips of Muslims themselves confirming and even defending what you're about to hear. Again, this video is disturbing, so please don't let children hear this or be in the room when you watch it.
A lot of Muslims I have seen will deny that Muhammad married a 6-year-old girl and raped her from the age of 9. And I've heard them say that, you know, it's a mistranslation of the Quran, or you're not reading it in Arabic, you don't understand because you can't read Arabic, or, you know, there are excuses being made. Like, what would you say to that?
To be honest, I fell for this as well, and this is gatekeeping Islam. It's just to make sure that, you know, people aren't really aware of how dark the sources are, because to be honest, back in the day, this was a very kind of mystified subject. You had to go to a scholar, or, you know, you really had to trust authority who was telling you this might not be the case. And there are thousands of apologetics out there trying to bend the historical narrative or the dates to try and say that by a different calendar she'd be 18 or 19 or something like that. But as I said, if anybody just wants to verify that, it's as simple as now just searching up the most basic Islamic sources, Sunnah.com, which is the biggest branch of Islam. Sunni Muslims adhere to this. It's on their own Islamic website. So I would suggest anybody that if somebody tells you or tries to gatekeep this information, because it brings Islam down on its knees, this itself, because if there's something flawed in the Quran, which they consider verbatim to be the word of God, and then, as Hitchens said, Islam makes such big claims for itself that Muhammad is meant to be an eternal, timeless example of a human being to follow, then this brings Islam down on its knees in itself, because he would be in jail today. He'd be on sex registers. He would not be somebody who is kind of revered by all these people around the world. And yeah, I would just, anybody that tries to shut this down, it was 20 or 30 years ago, it was permissible to say, oh, you don't speak Arabic, you don't know what you're talking about, these are lies. But I think with the power of the internet now, and people like ex-Muslim content creators out there who are saying this in pretty much every language now, it is very, very hard to deny the fact that this is within their own scriptures. And I see them scrambling to try and make changes to these as well, or try and make it more palatable to a Western audience by adding brackets when it talks about things like wife beating. You know, they try and add in brackets lightly or gently and things like that. But again, I think it's too little too late. The damage has been done.
Yeah. So you think that having sex with a 9-year-old is justified?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that so here, let me ask you a question. Okay, is the problem with
I'm asking you a question.
Well, I have to frame it. Okay, so do you have a problem with child marriage?
Oh, Muslims, don't apologize for the truth and don't distort the truth. There are Muslims that try to deny this. Oh, he didn't marry Aisha as a young girl. Ya akhi, look, that's not the way forward. We don't lie for the sake of our religion. Astaghfirullah. We're not going to cover up the truth if people find it embarrassing. This is the reality. Deal with it.
It's mutawatir evidence. Her saying, I was 9 years old.
Our Prophet ﷺ married a young girl.
And we are proud of this.
And we're proud of that.
So let's turn to their books now, and let's read what they have to say about Muhammad, their prophet, and Aisha. Narrated Hishman's father. Khadija died 3 years before the prophet departed to Medina. He stayed there for 2 years or so, and then he married Aisha when she was a girl of 6 years of age. And he consumed that marriage when she was 9 years old. And this is in Sahih al-Bukhari. So it says here that he married her when she was a girl of 6 years of age, and he consumed that marriage when she was 9 years old. So the word consumed here is consummated. So let's see what the dictionary says consummated means. Consummate, to make marital union complete by sexual intercourse. So now that we know what consumed means here, in another hadith, they actually use the word consummated. Narrated Aisha, that the Prophet married her when she was 6 years old, and he consummated his marriage when she was 9 years old. 9 years old, guys. Consummated, we know, because we just read in the Merriam-Webster dictionary, means to make marital union complete by sexual intercourse. So he did that with her when she was 9 years old. And here's a story in a hadith where the Prophet is talking about marrying Aisha. Behold, the writer was the Prophet himself. He said, "What makes you in such a hurry?" I replied, "I am newly married." He said, "Did you marry a virgin or a matron?" I replied, "A matron." The Prophet, he said, "Why didn't you marry a young girl so that you may play with her and she may play with you?" And then it goes on to say, when we were about to enter Medina, the Prophet, Muhammad, said, "Wait so that you may enter Medina at night, so that the lady of unkept hair may comb her hair, and the one whose husband has been absent may shave her pubic region." Then it goes on to say, narrated Urwa, the Prophet asked Abu Bakr for Aisha's hand in marriage. Abu Bakr said, "But I am your brother." The Prophet said, "You are my brother in Allah's religion and his book, but she, Aisha, is lawful for me to marry." And this, again, is a hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari. Now let's look at some hadiths that demonstrate to us that she was a little girl, despite what Muslim apologists will try to say to cover this up or try to justify it. They'll try to say she wasn't a little girl. However, their own hadiths demonstrate she was indeed a little girl. Right here it says, "While the Ethiopians are playing with their small spears, Allah's messenger screened me behind him, and I watched that display, and kept on watching till I left on my own. So you may estimate of what age a little girl may listen to amusement." And then another hadith, Aisha says, "I used to play with the dolls in the presence of the Prophet, and my girlfriends also used to play with me. When Allah's messenger, Muhammad, used to enter my dwelling place, they used to hide themselves, but the Prophet would call them to join and play with me." And it says, the playing with the dolls and similar images is forbidden. But it was allowed for Aisha at that time, as she was a little girl, not yet reached the age of puberty. How can they lie and say that she was not a little girl, when here explicitly it says that as she was a little girl, not yet reached the age of puberty? And then they'll try to cover this up and turn around and say, well, she was an adult. No, she was not. It just said she had not yet reached the age of puberty. I don't know how much more clear they need to be to demonstrate to you that she was indeed a little girl. And it says it in their own books. This is their hadith, Sahih al-Bukhari. And you can go onto their website at sunnah.com. Now guys, Muhammad, the Prophet, was around the age of 54 when he had consummated his marriage with Aisha. You have a 50-something-year-old man marrying a 6-year-old, and then consummating that marriage when she's 9 years old. How do you justify this? And according to Muslims, the Prophet Muhammad is supposed to be the standard of conduct, of how to live, of how to behave, and we're to believe that the Prophet Muhammad is the standard of conduct, being a 50-something-year-old man, marrying a 6-year-old, and consummating that marriage when she was 9 years old, while she's still playing with dolls? This is a kind of pattern of conduct we should be following? But a better question is, why don't Muslims teach people this? If you've never heard this before, ask yourself, why? Now what's more disturbing is that the Prophet Muhammad claims that Allah showed Aisha to him in a dream, therefore making Allah responsible for this nasty affair. It says, narrated Aisha, Allah's messenger said to me, "You were shown to me twice in my dream before I married you. I saw an angel carrying you in a silken piece of cloth, and I said to him, uncover her, and behold it was you. I said to myself, if this is from Allah, then it must happen." So in the Quran, it says that a Muslim man can marry, have sex with, and divorce a girl before she's even reached the age of puberty. Inside the rules for divorcing women and girls. Girls who don't even have a monthly menstrual cycle. Girls who haven't even started puberty. And listen to this clip of one of the mainstream YouTube Muslim apologists defending this, saying that it's okay to have sex with little girls before they've reached the age of puberty, according to their Quran.
When there are signs of physical maturity, it becomes permissible for the husband in Islamic law to have marital relationships or consummate the relation with his bride. And this is the example of the Prophet, peace be upon him.
Do you know what precocious puberty is?
Starting puberty unusually early. Like,
is there anything in Islam that prevents you from, a man marrying a 5-year-old that started precocious puberty?
you can arrange a marriage even as an infant, but that doesn't mean that sex is allowed.
Could a man have a marriage to a 5-year-old consummated if she started precocious puberty?
If she starts showing signs of physical maturity, then yes, that's permissible, as I said.
What about age 4?
if there are signs
3.
of. So this is something that becomes biologically impossible because
I have a
puberty,
study
there are
that shows
no.
it goes as early as 11 months.
Well, that's something that the parents would not. See, the thing about Islamic marriage is that parents are involved at these ages. And when you look at the marriage of the Prophet, peace be upon him.
Now, inside the Quran, it says, "If you are in doubt concerning those of your wives who have ceased menstruating, know that their waiting period shall be 3 months. The same shall apply to those who have not yet menstruated." So it's saying the same shall apply to those who have not yet menstruated. So the waiting period is 3 months, even with girls, little girls, who haven't even started to menstruate yet, who haven't even started their period. Here it says the iddah of those in menopause and those who do not have menses. And it says down here, the same for the young who have not reached the years of menstruation. Their iddah is 3 months, like those in menopause. So when do little girls usually start their menstrual cycle? Well, I've looked at some health pages, and one says most girls start their periods when they're about 12, but they can start as early as 8. And according to the Mayo Clinic, girls typically get their first period between the ages of 10 and 16. Most kids, 98%, get their first period before they even turn 15, before they turn 15. And is it normal for children to get their period before the age of 13? The average age of a first period is 12.4 years old. So almost half of the girls get their period before age 13. But some people get their first period at age 9 or 10. Modern day child brides. There's even modern day child brides in Islamic countries, guys, because of what the Quran and Hadith teach. It's okay, according to them, to marry young children. And here's a perfect example of a 13-year-old girl who was a child bride herself. And I believe this is in Lebanon.
أنا صرت مرة إنه لازم أعمل هذا الشيء.
وإذا ما كان بدك؟
ما فيها البنت تقول لا.
نعم؟
ما فيها البنت تقول لا.
يوميات طفلة عمرها 13 سنة. وإذا قالت لا المرأة شو بصير فيها؟ شو بيعملوا فيها؟
بيضربوها.
Now, if you ever wondered why people say Muslims beat their wives or that it's permissible, well, within their own Quran, it teaches that men have authority over women, and if they don't listen, then yes, you can beat them until they are obedient. And it says this in their very own Quran. So if they try to tell you it's not true, buy a Quran, show them yourself. In Surah 434, it says, "Men have authority over women because God has made the one superior to the other, and because they spend their wealth to maintain them. Good women are obedient. They guard their unseen parts," which is why they wear hijabs and everything else, "because God has guarded them. As for those from whom you fear disobedience, admonish them and forsake them in beds apart, and beat them." Now, like the girl was saying in the beginning, modern day Quran scholars and people have added the word lightly or just a bunch of other stuff to make it seem nicer. But what they meant was beat them, and that's what's written in the original Arabic. "Then if they obey you, take no further action against them. Surely God is high supreme." So it's saying if your wife doesn't listen to you, she's disobedient, then you beat them. You sleep away from them, tell them to go sleep on the couch or something, and you beat them. And if they obey you, then don't beat them anymore. God's good. He's high supreme. This is the Quran.
ومشان ما يضربوها مجبورة تقول إيه.
وإذا ضربها بدها تسكت لأنه ما عندها شهادة.
لأنه إذا عندها شهادة فيها تشتغل وما تكون بحاجة لزوجها.
Now the Quran and the Hadith teach that women are not as intelligent as men. In fact, in this Hadith in Sahih Bukhari, it says, "O women, give alms, as I have seen the majority of the dwellers of hellfire were you, women." They say women. They asked, "Why is it so, O Allah's messenger?" They're asking why most people in hell are women. And Muhammad said, "I have not seen anyone more deficient in intelligence and religion than you. A cautious, sensible man could be led astray by some of you." The woman asked, "O Allah's messenger, what is deficient in our intelligence and religion?" He said, "Is not the evidence of 2 women equal to the witnesses of 1 man?" They replied in the affirmative. He said, "This is the deficiency in her intelligence. Isn't it true that a woman can neither pray nor fast during her menses?" The women replied in the affirmative. He said, "This is the deficiency in her religion." Here's something disturbing I read in the Hadith as well in Sahih Bukhari. After consulting her, and a virgin should not be given in marriage except after her permission. So the people asked, "O Allah's messenger, how can we know her permission?" He said, her silence. And then it says indicates her permission. So her silence indicates her permission.
بعمر صغير
تجوزت أسس عيالي هنا أخذها صغيرة ربيها على إيدي.
نعم
أخذتها صغيرة لربيها على إيدي.
شو يعني تربيها على ايدك؟
هيك بنفهم بعض أكثر.
شو يعني بتربيها؟ قل لي كيف بتربي زوجتك؟
نفهم مع بعض نحن وصغيرين.
شو بتطلب منها انت لزوجتك؟ شو اللي لازم زوجتك تسمع الكلمه فيه؟
اللي بلا عليه تسمع الكلمة.
يعني مثل شو؟ قل لي انت شو بدك كرجل كزوج شو بدك مزبوط؟
المفروض اللي عليه تسمعه.
And it even says, if a man invites his wife to sleep with him and she refuses to come to him, then the angels send their curses on her till the morning. This is disgusting. It's basically using God to force women to have sex with them or scare them into having sex. Because if they don't, then they think angels are going to come and curse them till the morning time. And it's in their own books. I know that was difficult to watch, guys. However, the only way to spread the truth about this stuff is to show you. Rather than believing and hearing what other people say on the news or social media like TikTok and Instagram, we're going to go to their own books and see what they really believe. Unfortunately, it's not always pretty. In the next video, I'm going to show you exactly what Islam teaches about women, despite what you may hear from Muslim apologists in the Western world. We're going to go to their literature, as we did in this video, and we're going to see exactly what Muhammad taught about women and how to treat them. And then you can make your decision on if Islam is as peaceful as the news portrays it to be, and as politicians say it is.